So Skinamarink came out on Shudder, one of the most weirdly controversial horror movies to come out, but at the same time, one of the most popular. Everybody's talking about this movie, good or bad. It's very polarizing, but it's definitely a hit, it's definitely popular, and it's definitely turned a profit. I mean, the budget was only $15,000, so that's not a high bar to clear, but still, this movie is just going insane on the internet. Everybody's talking about it. Is it good? Is it bad? Well, I mean, who's for me to say, but I'll give you my unsolicited opinion anyway. So let's get into it. So the first thing to kind of just commend this movie on is that it does have a lot of artistic merit. Even in the sense of it, if you think it's bad, it's not lazy like Ouija or The Devil Inside, like movies like that. It's not like a traditionally dumb or schlocky stupid movie. It does have a lot going for it. But the thing is, you can't really go into this movie approaching it like a traditional movie or a traditional horror movie, because it doesn't really have characters, doesn't really have even a script or story. What this movie wants to do is just kind of elicit emotions out of you, very primal fear. But it just depends. Everyone is going to have a completely different experience with this movie, and understandably so. It's a hard movie to get into. It is a boring movie. And I'm not trying to say that to discredit it or say it's bad, but it's very slow. Not much happens. There's not a lot of dialogue. So you just can't exactly measure it up to a traditionally entertaining movie. But what it gets so right is just this very, very primal instinct of just a fear of the dark. And I think that when it plays to its strengths with that stuff, that's when the movie's at its best and its scariest. And I'm not one to tell somebody how to enjoy a movie, but I really think that you get the most optimal experience watching this alone in the dark. That's when the movie is going to really strike home and kind of give you those emotions that it's trying to invoke from you. Just kind of get all the distractions out of the way. Don't pick up your phone. Don't talk to people. You just got to make it you in the movie. And I think that's the most prime experience that you could get from this thing. It's very mesmerizing, and it just has this weird, nostalgic, dreamlike quality to it. The movie that it kind of reminds me the most of in that sense is the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. That is a very old silent movie, but it kind of invokes that dreamlike sensation, just weirdly nostalgic and dreamlike. This movie's more with the nostalgia because it's a basic house, and all the shots and the toys and everything, it sends me back to the mentality of a child. It really reminds me of the videos, that trend of videos where it shows you a place where it feels weirdly familiar. If you know what I'm talking about, that was a big thing I think on TikTok and YouTube, but that's where I feel it reminded me so much of that. It puts you back in this mentality of a child. You wake up, no adults around to protect you, and you're just sealed in. There's these startling noises, there's these dark shots of the house, and I think it's very effective. Now, someone who watches it with a big crowd or watches it with a bunch of people, and you're talking, you have all these distractions, you're not going to get anything from this movie. It's going to be very boring and you're not going to enjoy it. But if you just lock yourself in with it, just let the movie take you, you'll have a completely different experience with it, I think. And it won't be that entertaining, it won't be the most enjoyable thing ever. I'm probably not going to watch this movie again, but you will get lost in these dark hallways and these open closets. There's just something so weirdly scary that it just taps into. It really brings out just this thing that I didn't know still scared me. It just unlocks something that a lot of movies don't. The movie's a very disorienting experience. A lot of the dialogue's kind of mumbled. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Some of the light conversations that are in the movie, they're very dreamlike. They're very nightmare-like. They're disorienting. They don't make a lot of sense, and they can come off as very unsettling. Also, just because it's so immersive, you really get lost in the visuals. It's like I said, you really do kind of blend into those closets, those dark hallways and everything. You stare at them for lengthy amounts of time, and the camera just, it plays tricks on you. Part of it's the graininess, and then part of it's the darkness. It goes back into that disorientation where you can't tell if something's moving or if your mind or your eyes are just playing tricks on you. The movie always keeps you on guard. It uses the darkness to just put you in uncomfortable places. This isn't a spoiler, but there's a sequence where a character looks under the bed and it's from their perspective, and you are left on the edge, not knowing if something's going to pop out, if something's there, and you're left for an uncomfortable amount of time looking under this bed, waiting for something terrible to happen. The movie's real objective isn't to sell you on a story, it's really to kind of just sell you on the mood. It takes you through this very weird experience and these different shots and these very weird light conversations and everything. It just kind of wants to take you along for the ride and provide these emotions and stick with this feeling of dread and just unsettle you to your core. Again, that's what the movie does best. Because it's not the story, it's not the characters or the writing or anything. It's delivering this really jarring experience to the viewer. And it does it just perfectly with sound, design, and just the void that it leaves you in. It's always these extended shots of these dark hallways, these closets, everything. You don't see what's inside them. And you're just so mesmerized by the whole thing and the graininess and the quality. Everything was built and definitely intentional. Everything about it makes you so uncomfortable, and maybe it's too long. I'm not sure. I think that maybe it could have been shorter, but I also at the same time can't take that away because the length is kind of what draws you into the movie and lets you get lost in it. You kind of need a while. You need to get adjusted to this experience because again, it's not a traditional movie experience. You're not getting into story and characters. You kind of just need to be left alone in this situation for a while and get drawn in before things can start to happen and spook you out and really sell you on this concept, because that is what it is all about. The guy who directed this got his start kind of visualizing and listening to people's nightmares and dreams and recreating them, and this is what it feels like, a really long weird dream, and it's everything that comes with a dream. The weird rules, the weird random people, things that just don't make sense logically, like no doors or windows suddenly existing, people being there that weren't there before, the conversations that don't make a lot of sense. And dreams are very disorienting by their own nature. They're your subconscious kind of having some weird play-by-play while you're sleeping, and this captures that mood perfectly. I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. It is, like I said, a boring movie. I'm probably not going to watch it again. I don't really need to. It doesn't have rewatch value. But if you're in the mood to kind of just feel these emotions, feel these feelings, I would recommend you watch it alone. Just lock yourself in the dark and just get lost in it. I mean, that's the best way I'd say to experience it. I don't really think there's any other optimal way to experience, even in a theater. Other people being around you, I think, kind of dampens it a tad bit and takes away from that experience. So if I had to do it, I think that I did it perfectly. Turn on the TV, throw on your computer, just get in the dark, be alone, and just check it out. Alright guys, Skinamarink, let me know what you thought of it in the comments. I'd love to hear everybody's different take on it because there's just inevitably going to be a lot of different takes on this movie. Good, bad, let me know in the comments. Have a good one.